Hello and welcome to your Meyer Psychology for AP Second Edition Professional Development session. In this professional development session, we will look at the textbook, its resources, and its media. Let's start by taking a look at our goals for today. Ultimately, the purpose of this professional development is to prepare you for using Meyer Psychology for AP Second Edition in your AP Psych classroom. We will do an in-depth review of the textbook and its resources and make sure you have a full understanding of the program. We'll start out by taking a look at the AP Psychology course and exam. The exam is divided into two sections, a multiple choice section and a free response question section. Section 1, the multiple choice section, is 100 questions lasting 70 minutes. Students will receive 1 point for their correct answers, and incorrect answers will receive no points. Easier questions will be at the beginning of the exam, and the multiple choice portion accounts for 66.7% of the overall score. In Section 2, students will be asked to respond to free response questions. There are 2 questions, and students are given 50 minutes to answer. College Board expects students to apply knowledge of several content areas, and each answer is weighed equally. Overall, these 2 questions are 33.3% of the score. The total time for the exam is 2 hours and 5 minutes. 2/3 of the score is based on multiple choice, and 1/3 of the score is based on writing. Now let's take a look at the student edition of Meyer Psychology for AP. The student edition is organized around the College Board AP Psychology topic outline. You'll find a correlation in the front of your book. Make sure your students understand at least the basics of the AP course and exam before they start studying from this textbook. We have restructured the second edition to have a modular approach. Each module is designed to fit into 1 to 2 class periods. Make sure your student understands that the word module has replaced chapter. A modular organization allows you more flexibility in how you use this textbook in your classroom. We have numbered measurable learning objectives in the beginning of each module. Students can check off what they've learned from this list as they've learned it. All learning objectives are covered again in the review section at the end of the module. Within the student edition, there's various pedagogy to help your students with the test. Veteran AP teacher Charlie Blair Broker has written AP exam tips which provide advice on what students need to pay close attention to and what common pitfalls to avoid. FYI boxes give fun facts to help connect the content with real-life examples and research studies. Finally, the Try This boxes are activities for students to do that allow them to connect with the psychology they are studying. We have also highlighted the key terms in beige boxes. These will highlight the vocabulary necessary for your students to succeed on the AP exam. Encourage your students to keep a running list of key terms and vocab to study throughout the year. Before you move on boxes are at the end of the main sections. These serve as a roadblock for your students. Ask Yourself questions are designed to encourage your students to reflect and make connections to the material, while Test Yourself questions assess your students' understanding of the content that they have just read. Some other pedagogy within Meyer Psychology for AP are close-up boxes and thinking critically about boxes. Close-up boxes encourage application of concepts by giving high-interest, real-life examples, while thinking critically about boxes sharpen your students' analytical skills. At the end of each module, there is a review section. This is organized by the module's learning objectives and is another great way to test your students' progress with the material. We have also included practice-free response questions, so your students will constantly be preparing for the exam as they work with this textbook. At the end of each unit, there is an AP-style review. The most important key terms and concepts are highlighted. This is a great long-term study tool for your students to use. Students are also given AP-style multiple choice and free response questions, as well as the rubrics. This is a great tool to test your students' progress toward the AP exam. At the end of the text is a practice AP-style exam. It is cumulative and will prepare your students before they take the real exam in May. Your students will receive free access to the book companion site. The URL for the book companion site is on the screen. Your students will need to go to the website and create an account. They do not need an access code. However, they will need an email address. There are many free resources on the BCS, including quizzes, flip-it videos, websites to try, and flashcards. Let's do a quick recap of the student edition. First, make sure your students understand the AP framework and how the exam is set up. Next, review the FRQ rubric with your students. Remember, there are no chapters in Meyer Psychology for AP. There are modules and units. Keep an eye out for the AP exam tips within the textbook and encourage your students to log on to the book companion site. Next, we'll take a look at the teacher resources that are included with your purchase of Meyer Psychology for AP Second Edition. The Annotated Teachers Edition includes a unit overview. Before each unit are additional pages that are designed to help you prepare for teaching that unit. These pages will contain an overview of the key ideas and takeaways for students within the unit, so you will know what to expect when teaching it. There is also an alignment to the AP course description, so you know how much weight each unit carries in the course outline. We also provide you with essential questions your students should be able to discuss to show their mastery of that unit. A pacing guide will provide you with a clear plan for how long to spend on each module, depending on if you use a block or standard schedule. And finally, we have a list of unit resources. We have a lot of resources for you to use, and we want to make it as easy as possible. So we provide you with a list of all the worksheets, activities, etc. at the beginning of each unit to help you prepare for your classroom. There are various marginal annotations within the Annotated Teachers Edition. We've divided them into 3 categories. The first category is Teach. This will help you tackle major concepts of the module with teaching tips, worksheets, and more. The resources will enhance your class and offer connections to other psychological and real-world concepts to bring AP Psych to life. It includes discussion starters, teaching tips, common pitfalls, concept connections, flip-it videos, interdisciplinary connections, and diversity connections. The second type of annotation is the Engage. Engage provides you with additional helpful resources, such as high critical thinking questions or fun facts to provide extra knowledge. The Engage annotations include enrichments, which are fun facts that expand on information from the text, critical questions, which will allow students to practice answering the high-level questions that are essential for success on the exam, active learning, which are activities to fully engage your students, and online activities, which are educational enrichment activities that can be completed online. The last type of annotation we have are Close and Assess, which will provide you with questions to help your students apply that day's concepts. The Exit Assessment is an assessment to help students reflect on what they've learned in your classroom. Use your students' answers as a formative assessment to guide your lesson for the next day. There's a lot to balance when you're teaching AP Psychology. The most important thing is to keep a schedule. Use our pacing guides and try to stick to it. We know with assemblies and bad weather there's a lot to derail the course, but try to keep to it. Keep an eye on the coverage percentages and the correlation in the front of the book, and make sure you're staying proportionate to that. Use active learning as much as possible. There's a lot of content for your students to remember. If your teaching includes demos, experiments, and writing exercises over straight lecture, your students will retain more knowledge. Keep an eye on the active learning exercises in the ATE. Make sure your students understand the importance of reading the textbook in an AP course. Adopt the AP question format. Make sure your students are used to responding to free response questions and AP-style multiple choice questions. Use them on your tests and quizzes. All FRQs from actual exams have been released. Use them in your classroom. When you're grading your students' work, be sure to use AP rubrics. They are available in your Teacher's Edition for all of the free response questions within the text and are available on the College Board site. Work with the English teachers in your school to give you a hand with writing tips. Your students will need to be able to write clearly in a high-pressure situation on the day of the exam. Study the rubrics for grading writing. Lastly, test your students on content cumulatively. You do not want them to forget what they've learned in October when it's time for the AP exam in May. You will receive access to your book companion site from your sales rep upon adoption. All of your resources can be found in the Adopted Resources tab, and you can browse by chapter or resource. A list of all the resource types is on the screen. Many of these you can download locally to your computer. The videos do stream through the site, and there are multiple types of videos to watch. There is a professional development video available for each module of Meyer Psychology for AP. Be sure to watch it before teaching that module. We also provide you with sample questions, correlations, and other resources available around the web. The Bedford Freeman and Worth Learning Library and our YouTube page is a wonderful resource for all free professional development videos. All of our past author events are available for free online. You can stay in the loop by going to the Learning Library and keeping an eye on our upcoming events page. Make sure you are on our webinar mailing list. BFW typically hosts webinars with Dave Myers and other leaders in the AP Psychology community throughout the fall and the spring. Thank you once again for choosing Meyer Psychology for AP for your AP Psychology classroom. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My email address and phone number are on the screen.